Okay, thank you, Gillian. So as Gillian said, my name is Jenna Campbell. I'm the Director of Corporate Services, Strategy and Innovation here at the Township. The purpose of this presentation today is to give an overview of the new community grants policy for the committee. So I'll discuss each of the grant streams, including the associated eligibility and requirements. And I want to thank each of you for participating as a member of this committee, where you have the significant and consequential task of making recommendations to council as to whether a grant application should be approved. So the Loyalist Township Community Grants Policy. So the program supports community groups and others that provide programs or projects to support health, social, cultural, economic, equity, and environmental aspects of the community in Loyalist Township. The new policy, called the Community Grants Policy, was approved on May 14th, 2024, and combines the former Renewable Energy Vibrancy Grant Fund policy, the Council Ad Hoc Grant Policy, the Free Use of Facilities Program, and the Mayor and CAO discretionary funds into one single policy. The policy combines a variety of direction and feedback into one document, including the requirements of the community vibrancy and community benefit agreements entered into with 2 renewable energy proponents, initial work undertaken by the Renewable Energy Vibrancy Fund Advisory Committee and recommendations from its subcommittees, public consultation by way of a survey undertaken in March and April of this year, and direction from council. The policy as drafted is meant to provide clarity, improve consistency in the way funds are distributed, and ensure appropriate recognition of the contributors, as well as to simplify the application and reporting requirements for our community groups who end up being recipients. Sorry, can you just go back one? Oh, go back one more. Sorry. Yeah, right here. Okay. So the township entered into a community benefit fund agreement with Wind Electric Inc. in 2015. This was resulting from the wind project on Amherst Island, as well as a community vibrancy fund agreement with Kingston Solar GP Inc. in 2014, which was resulting from the solar project on Mud Lake Road, which is partially included in the town, partially constructed in the township and partially constructed within the city of Kingston. Each funding agreement provides stipulations based on base contribution each year, how the funding must be allocated, and the maintenance of a designated reserve fund. Currently, the annual contributions from both agreements yield approximately $645,000 per year in funding, which in turn is distributed to organizations and individuals who make a meaningful difference in the lives of Loyalist Township residents. Both agreements are for a period of 20 years, after which the contributions will cease. Next slide. So the new policy includes 4 grant streams. There is initial information within the policy body, and then each of the 4 grant stream details are included in the appendices of the policy. So the first 2 streams, the capital grant stream and the program and event stream, applications are considered by this committee, which will make a recommendation to council for final decision, and these will be the focus of today's presentation. Under these 2 streams, applicants are only entitled to 1 community grant from either the capital stream or the program and event stream per year. The other 2 streams, so the free use of facility requests, are considered by the Director of Community and Customer Services, and discretionary grant requests are considered by the Mayor or CAO. Requests for free use of facilities are limited to $1,500 per request, and discretionary grants are limited to $1,000 per request, which means any requests above those dollar values will need to be made to this committee. Per the policy, of the total contributions received in each year, 25% is placed into a reserve to be used in perpetuity following the completion of the agreements, so after the agreements have been in place for 20 years. 60% is placed in the capital grant stream, and the remaining 15% of the funds are for the program event pre-use, and discretionary streams. Some funds are also dedicated to certain areas of the township based on the policy and where the construction of the renewable energy project was done. And we'll discuss that during the financial presentation later on in the meeting. Okay, next slide. So the requirements for all applicants, in addition to the specific requirements under each stream that are included in the appendices, so all applicant requirements are included on this slide and are detailed in paragraph 4.16 of the policy. So projects, programs, events, or activities must support township residents and/or be located within the township and generally be open to the public. Applicants must have a good track record of completing similar programs, demonstrate the financial ability to carry out the program or project, and be in good financial standing with the township. This includes fulfilling reporting requirements from previous grant or donation programs. So when you're considering applications in the future, you need to ensure that those requirements have been adhered to in the past. Next slide, please. So the specific information about the capital grant stream. So as I said, the details for this stream are in Appendix A of the policy. These are for projects that are often physical in nature, that enhance or enrich the community. They involve construction or the purchase of physical assets. And they must fall under one of the seven categories that are listed on the slide there. Next slide. So for the capital grant stream, applicants must be incorporated organizations that are nonprofit or charitable in nature. They are to be validly subsisting and in good standing and have demonstrated support from sources other than public funds. And they must demonstrate an appropriate organizational structure and volunteer support and have a good track record of implementing projects, programs, or events similar to what they're applying for. Individuals and unincorporated groups are not eligible to apply for the capital stream. The limit for applications under the capital grant stream is $100,000 per application. And the complete application must include 3 quotes to support the pricing in the application. The $100,000 limit also includes any in-kind services from the township that are being requested. And these need to be confirmed with township staff before they are detailed in the application. So the scope and the cost associated with those items must be confirmed with township staff ahead of being included. For all projects where physical construction is proposed, the applicant must consult with the township's Development Services Division as part of the application process. So this will be done to help determine any requirements under the Planning Act or Ontario Building Code that should be included as part of the application. So that might be items such as building permit requirements, site plan control requirements, or other similar requirements. Applications under the capital grant stream also require the submission of a copy of the organization's financial statements, corporate annual return, a list of the organization's directors and officers, and a copy of the organization's articles of incorporation, as well as proof of insurance. So there are 3 intakes for both the capital grant and the program and event grant. So they will be deadlines of February 1st, June 1st, and October 1st in every year. But this year, in 2024, the deadline for intake 2 is June 12th of this year. Successful applicants, so recipients under this program, will have to enter into a formal funding agreement with the township before the funding is released. And for the capital stream, 50% of the funding will be granted upon agreement signing, and then recipients will be required to make claims for the remaining funds, and the claims must be at least 10% of the total project value for each claim. So they would get 50% up front, and then they could make up to 5 additional claims of 10% each or more for the remaining funds. All permits and approvals required to facilitate the project remain the responsibility of the recipient. Reporting requirements as detailed above are required for all projects. And as I noted before, we noted these specifically because the committee needs to be aware that if the reporting is not finalized on a previous project, then applicants would be ineligible in the future. For the program and event stream, so the details for this stream are in Appendix B of the policy. This is for programs or events or activities being offered that enhance or enrich the community and must fall into one of the categories listed on the slide. So for the program and event stream, applicants can be nonprofit or charitable in nature, and they can be incorporated organizations or unincorporated groups. And similarly, need to have demonstrated support from other sources other than public funds, demonstrate appropriate organizational structure and support, and have a good track record of implementing these types of projects. Individuals are not eligible to apply under the program and event stream. The limit for applications is $10,000 per application, and the application requirements are substantially less involved than for the capital grant stream, and involve information about the group that's applying as well as the intended project outcomes and the financial need for the grant. Again, there are 3 intakes. They follow the same timelines as the capital stream. And recipients of the program and event stream must enter into a memorandum of understanding with the township, so a bit of a simpler document before the funding is released. It's released as a one-time payment after the MOU signing, and all permits required to facilitate the program or event remain the responsibility of the recipient. So for this case, it might be a park permit or something like that that's required. Reporting requirements are as detailed above. And again, just noted to make sure that we have all future applicants being eligible after submitting this reporting. There are a variety of limitations as detailed in paragraph 4.18 of the policy and listed on this slide that will need to be considered by the committee when reviewing applications. So these include considerations for making sure that the applicant is not using the funds for-profit purposes or to fund projects taking place on private property that is not accessible to the community at large. Grants are not to be used for political, special interest, or religious purposes, nor are they to be used as a loan or for debt financing. They're also not to be for day-to-day operation costs, such as staffing, rent, taxes, office supplies, attendance at conferences or workshops, travel, accommodations, uniforms, or personal protective equipment. And they're also not to be used to fund third parties or donations to other charitable causes. Next slide. So there are a number of other conditions for the committee's consideration that are listed on this slide. All of these are detailed in the policy, and the policy should be reviewed in detail by each committee member ahead of the first meeting where you're considering applications. Specific new conditions in this policy is the recognition protocol, which is currently being developed and will be shared with committee members once it's finalized. And that's to make sure that the requirements of the agreements for acknowledging our contributors and the township are met by those receiving grants. So the approval process. So once an application is submitted, it will be included on a community grant committee agenda, along with any staff comments on the application. The specific responsibilities of the committee are to review complete applications to the capital grant and program and event grant streams and assess them in accordance with the stream's respective guidelines as outlined in the policy body, as well as appendices A and B. The community grant committee as established, will operate in accordance with the terms of reference as provided by council, and Gillian will speak to this in a few minutes. And it is very important that decisions about all funding allocations for the two streams for which you're responsible be recommended by the Community Grant Committee only in accordance with the relevant program guidelines included in the policy. So the committee will make a recommendation to council for each application for which the committee is responsible to consider. Council will then consider the committee recommendations at the next available council meeting, and council decisions regarding applications are final. Following approval, the administration process moves to staff to inform applicants of the status of their application to sign the funding agreement, to sign the funding agreement for capital grants or memorandum of understanding for program and event grants, and to issue payments. So a few grant writing tips and tricks listed up here on the slide. So these can be helpful for successful grants. So if you have any questions from community members, these are good tips to provide them. And anyone looking for support for the application process is welcome to reach out to the Clerk's division. We have their email coming up in a minute for consultation or support on their application. And we would encourage anyone to do that, especially with the new policy as people are navigating what's changed. So here are some of the staff details for some of the consultation. So as I said, if anyone would like to contact the Clerk's division to consult on their proposal, that's the email there for them. And then for the mandatory consultation for physical construction, the planning and building department can be reached at planningandbuilding@loyalist.ca. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has about the presentation. Gillian will be doing a bit of a presentation about committee procedure in a moment. Yes, Councillor Willow.
Thank you. One question I have is I know that the policy does allow some leeway with that $100,000 cap for capital that council could approve higher if it was appropriate. But what you said is the committee must make a decision based on the policy alone. So in that kind of a case, the committee would recommend not approving because it doesn't meet the policy, and then it would go to council for a decision.
And to what extent can the committee rely on the screening done by staff before we see the applications?
Comments. Either or concerns process or tools or processes that the township has in place. They won't provide committee to what the how application.
Okay, thank you very much.
If you have a question, Diane, you're welcome to ask.
I do. First of all, I couldn't hear the response. I don't know if it's only my connection, but it totally broke up. There was I couldn't hear the answer to either of those questions, any of those questions. I also will mention, while I have the opportunity, I intended to be there in person until I reviewed the agenda again this morning and got the definite impression that it was a virtual meeting only. And as I said, I would much prefer to be there in person for things like this. Although I appreciate the value of and the convenience of having a hybrid meeting. Anyway, I just want to know if I was confused or if it was unclear about whether this meeting would be hybrid only, or whether, would be virtual only, online only, or whether it would be partially in person.
Anne, it looks like you want to answer that question.
I can speak to that also. When I read the initial email, I thought it was virtual only, but I inquired and was told it's in person. Because I thought earlier I saw it in person. Whoops. When I first read it, I thought it was in person. Then the second email, so it was just a little bit of confusion. I just contacted you and cleared it up.
Through Gillian to Diane's question. So the committee meetings are hybrid, which means that you could attend in person or virtually. I know the reason we do this is to give everyone the sort of the convenience to attend in person or virtually if that's what they want to do. So I'm sorry that there was a bit of confusion on whether this meeting was officially virtual or in person, but you guys are you are welcome to attend whichever method you prefer.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you to the clerk for that. I think that the confusion comes from the fact that in the agenda, it says that it will be a virtual manner and it doesn't mention hybrid. So if we can just correct that for future meetings.
Yeah, of course, we'll take note of that and we'll update it so that all further meetings will be held in a hybrid manner.
Perhaps I might try to answer the questions again so that those attending virtually might be able to hear. So I see nodding. Can everyone hear now? Okay. So I now need to remember what the questions were. So one was about the role of staff in reviewing the applications. So the role of staff is to provide factual commentary on the how the application aligns with the policy and also on any other operational requirements that may be impacted or may need to be considered as a result of the application, so that the applicant is aware of all of those requirements before the committee is aware of all of those requirements before considering the application. The other question was from Councillor Willis, which is escaping me. Okay.
I was asking because the capital grant policy has a cap of $100,000, but there is some leeway for council to make alternate decisions, whether the committee is held to recommending against that application because it doesn't meet the policy. Essentially, the committee can only work with what is the policy, correct?
Okay, so just checking again that everyone can hear me. Yes, so the consideration by the committee should be looking to align with the policy wherever possible, yes.
Yes, Diane?
So then, even though the committee might think the application is a very good idea and beneficial to the community, the recommendation would then be, maybe it would be conditional. You know, we think this is a good idea, but we understand that it's beyond the mandate of the committee to recommend it. Is that what would be suggested?
It certainly could be. So the committee should make whatever recommendation the majority of the committee deems to be appropriate. We just would encourage the committee to do their best to align their recommendations with the policy, as long as they feel that that's appropriate. Well, they should aim to align with the policy wherever possible.